Hey, welcome to the program today. It is Q&A day, a time when I pause for just a few moments and answer the questions that you are asking right now.
Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to become part of the Transplant Helper community.
Hey, Transplant Helper community, my name is Jim Merle, and yes, I thought it was a good time to stop and pause and do one of my monthly type of Q&A videos. I've seen a lot of great questions coming up over some of these Facebook groups, particularly in the heart transplant support group, which, by the way, happens to be one of my favorite groups. It is by far the most active group I'm aware of over on Facebook, as well as in my mind, at least. There's some great support and also some great information that comes from that group. But with that said, we're going to jump into these questions in just a moment. But before we go to that, let me remind you about my brand new video series I just completed on last week entitled Getting Started. Basically, that video series surrounded the idea of making about 10 videos, which is what it turned out to be, but making about 10 videos that I thought would be very appropriate to share with a brand new transplant patient. Gives them the basic idea of what transplant is all about, what to expect, some of the things that they're going to encounter right off the bat, kind of just gets them rolling, and then at the end of each of those videos directs them to a longer series of videos, in each case per topic, that really I think can help them out an awful lot and get them started down this path. Now, if you're a part of the Transplant Helper community already, I know that you're willing to share those videos out. I know that you're taking opportunity to do so, but in general, I'm going to tell you, if you're in the clinic and you meet up with someone who's new to this idea, this is where you need to point them first. As a matter of fact, I've just put out produced, I don't know what to say, had printed, that's the word, some brand new business cards. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but it basically just has my new logo, that sort of thing on it. But on the back, it's pretty special. On the back of that, I've actually got two QR bar type codes that are seen right here. One of them carries with the idea of get started now. So if someone scans that code, it'll take them directly to that video series. The other one says view my channel, which obviously will take them directly to my channel. It's pretty easy to get started with. I've got an iPhone here that I use every day. Basically, all I have to do is open up my camera app. I will point it directly. If I can get it in focus there, I'll point it directly at the barcode for get started, and boom, there you go. It pulls up the getting started playlist. So very handy. If you could use some of these cards, I'd be more than happy. If you'll send me a private message, I'll be more than happy to send you out some of these cards. Not necessarily promote me, but just so you'll have something to hand them. So if you meet up with someone in clinic, you think the Getting Started series or any of my videos might help, that will allow them to go directly to that, and they just stick it in their wallet, their pocket, and go on. And you can keep a few of these on hand as well to hand out when you get a chance. But that's enough of that. I don't generally like doing commercials. I actually didn't enjoy that one very much, but I thought we would answer some viewer questions today, at least some of those I've seen pop up in these Facebook groups, because I think they're very good questions. I think there's some information that we can maybe bring to the table that may or may not have been mentioned in the comments and that sort of thing. Here we go. We got the first question I've chosen here. It's from Haley Sukla. She says, 4 weeks post today, that's post-heart transplant. I feel like I should be moving more and my sternum really hurts. Vets, am I on the right track? That's actually a great question. If you just received a heart transplant and you're 4 weeks out, don't expect to be doing an awful lot. Now, I know everyone's case is a little bit different. Everyone feels pain differently. Everyone goes through a different thing. But basically, if the sternum, which it is for a heart transplant, if that sternum is broken, cracked for the surgery itself, it takes a while to heal. Most teams will give you at least about an 8, 10, or 12-week sternal precaution period where they tell you not to lift anything, not to do anything strenuous, to be very cautious, as it sounds like, and not to get into a lot of strenuous movement there, just to allow that to go ahead and start to heal up. Well, with that being said, I can remember my transplant, at least, and this is my personal experience. They told me, for example, not to raise my arms above my head or anything like that. No worries there. I raised my arm to like right here, right here, and it hurt so bad I just assumed they had strapped my arms to me for the whole first 12-week period. But nonetheless, you do need to move a bit, but things like reaching back, bending over, obviously reaching up, those sorts of things will be very painful in the beginning. So don't do a lot of that, and certainly don't lift anything heavy. Follow those sternal precautions to a T. You really, really need to do that, because there are some rare cases where that sternum either moves or shifts and or doesn't heal properly, and then they're going to have to go back in and repair that. And that's a booger bear. I don't know. That's how we say it in the South anyway. That's a booger bear if they have to go back in and do that. It's very difficult. So stick with the sternal precautions. If you're 4 weeks out, don't sweat it. Do whatever your team's asking you to do. Participate in that rehab program, whatever that is. And yeah, I think you're going to be great. It just takes a lot of time for that particular bone structure to heal. So great question, Haley. Next question here I've got selected. Misty Reynolds asks or says, my mom just got a heart transplant on Saturday. Congratulations to your mom. She is in CV ICU, so cardiovascular intensive care unit. Can you share your experience during the first week in ICU? Yeah, a lot of people have various, again, different experiences, but typically what you're going to experience within that first week or a lot of touch and go moments. Let's just be honest about it. That first week is difficult. There's not only can be a good bit of pain, there's going to be just a lot going on. They're introducing those immunosuppressant drugs for the first time, trying to get those levels right. You probably, for at least the first few days of that week or so, she's going to have a lot of extra tubes coming out. So you're going to have a lot of IVs, central lines, arc lines, they call them, that go in the main arteries. Possibly still have a Swan-Ganz and or some other catheter type things going into the neck. They're going to have drains coming out the chest. I know this sounds scary, but there's basically going to be a tube coming out of everywhere for a few days. Now, incrementally, as you go through, depending on how she is doing at that point, they'll start removing some of those. IVs will come out first. Things like PICC lines may come out next. Arc lines are going to come out as soon as possible. Finally, they'll go all the way down to finally getting out those drains. And every one of these things are a little bit stressful to take out, but it only takes a few seconds usually. They'll pull these lines, and as they see fit, they will increase their activity as well. So expect, though, that even with some of those lines still in, they're going to be wanting your mom either to sit up in the bed, elevate the bed with the electronics or whatever. They're going to want to get over in a chair, probably going to want her to stand and even walk. Now, I was blessed to be able to do all of that. I was actually walking within 24 hours, sitting in a chair within this first 12 hours. My recovery was a lot different, but a lot of people expect that first week to be pretty touch and go and pretty difficult. It's just going to be some hard times. But overall, it's one of those things that while you're going through it, and I can speak probably for your mom, I can certainly speak for myself, while you're going through it, it seems a little rough. But after you look back, mostly not so bad, assuming there are no real problems, difficulties, bumps in the road. But so a lot more could be said about that. But that's kind of the basics. Touch and go, be cautious, be careful, but expect that incrementally as these lines come out, her activity will be increased. And the quicker she can get up and get moving, by the way, the better off her overall recovery is going to be in the long run. So great question there from Misty. Keith Bradley, does anyone take multivitamins? I'm just curious if you were allowed to, since most increase your immune system. Well, a couple of things in this. Number one, multivitamins don't increase your immune system really enough to matter in most cases, and I'll disclaim that in a minute, but they're not the end-all be-all. I mean, I get that there's a lot of advertisement, there's a lot of data out there that are supposedly proving if you pop this, cold ease and this and that, and all these different wonderful, everybody's got their favorite multivitamin, their favorite supplement, and they claim that when they take it, they never get sick. I get that. There's a lot of fluff to that. There's some fact, but there's a lot of fluff to that. But in general, multivitamins just are not potent enough, nor are you getting a high enough dosage of any of those minerals in it that's going to just alter your immune system so much to the point that it's going to put you in a rejection. So it's not a matter of the immune suppressant drugs bringing your immune system down, then the multivitamin, pushing it up so much till the whole thing goes up and you go into rejection. Most likely not going to happen. But as a disclaimer, there are some vitamins out there, multivitamins out there with the different vitamins in them that can cause problems. It's not because they raise your immune system so much. It's just because they cause problems with the absorption of that immune suppressant drug itself. Things like Prograf, things like Myfortic, things like mycophenolate, things like Suremus, just a lot of these medications. Even your corticosteroid, prednisone. a lot of times taking certain multivitamins will alter the levels in your bloodstream of that particular drug, and therefore that could be what causes the problem in the end. So don't think that just taking a multivitamin is lifting your immune system, causing a problem. Probably not that. It's a matter that it's actually altering the levels of certain medications in your bloodstream, which could in turn cause a problem. However, with that being said, again, I keep saying with that being said a lot, don't I? With that being said, guilty again, I would be sure, absolutely sure, and always have, that you sat down with your team and talk with them specifically about what multivitamins you're interested in taking, okay? They may very well allow you to take those or even want you to take those, but make sure they know about it. And that's not just a multivitamin, that's any supplement, any vitamin. If it's not on your prescribed medication list from your team, don't take it until they clear it, okay? And I would honestly and really, if I want to take a certain multivitamin or certain supplement, I'm going to purchase that. This is not a prescription bottle, but using it for example, I'm going to purchase that. I'm going to take it into my team. I'm going to let them look at it. I'm going to let them lay eyes on it, see what's in it. They may even send me over. They've got an in-house pharmacist. The pharmacist may look that over. They're going to make that determination, help me make that determination for me so that I don't make a mistake in the end. So be sure your team clears it, that they know about it. And then, yeah, you're probably going to be good. A lot of us take supplemental multivitamin type things with team clearance and with their knowledge. So great question, Keith. I appreciate that. Next, Mike Stanley says, I have read that people with LVAD usually only live 6 months to a year. That must be old statistics. Mike, I know that's old statistics, okay? I've actually done several videos about the LVAD, and in one of those videos I can remember especially talking about how far the LVAD has come in just a few generations. And I don't mean like people generations. I mean like there was this one, and now here's the dot one, or the next generation, or the next more advanced model number. That's probably a better way to say it. Each model gets better and better. Now, early on, the LVAD was an extremely dangerous piece of device to put in you. Yeah, it could have been life-saving. Yes, there was a lot of people who needed it and got it, but it was extremely dangerous. The surgery itself was horrific to begin with, just because of the skill level of the doctors having to learn to deal with this. A lot of times then, more the drive lines were more like hard pipe lines, like you'd literally plumb a sink with, stainless steel type lines. Things are a little different now, but a lot of that was more difficult. Of course, it took to put in an LVAD, took full sternal split, basically, unhooking the heart and hooking this in. There was a lot to it. Then you have lines, which this is still the case, but you have lines that come out, these drive lines. There was a lot of problems back then with infection, a lot of problems with blood clotting, a lot of problems with it was just a difficult device. I don't know what else to say about it. It was hard back in the olden days. It's still not an easy road, don't get me wrong, but the older ones, the models just weren't as good as what we have now. So a lot of failures in that. So here's what we see. If you look back at those old statistics, I'm going to make up statistics. My disclaimer again, I'm making these numbers up. But in the old days, in the early days of this, let's suppose that they implanted 10 people. We'll use the number 10 because it's easier math, but they implant 10 people with an LVAD. Back then, 3 of those 10 were likely to die during the surgery. So already you're down to 7. So you got 7 people remaining that are alive. Within the first month or two, maybe 2 of those 7 would have pretty severe clotting issues. So now you got 5 that still remain. So then within a couple of months or so after that, and again, I'm making up this scenario for illustration, you might have out of that 5, you might have another 2 that were having some pretty bad infections, and the infections were such that, and they still have to do this on occasion, where they had to pull the LVAD itself. So now you're down to 3. So you got basically 3 successful cases, and the majority of those, especially back then, the idea was to try to transplant you within a year of getting the LVAD. So even the 3 that remained and that were doing well, most likely they were going to be transplanted before that 1 year mark. So it kind of kept the statistics a little lower than they are now. I actually posted in the comments below this particular question a photograph of a post that I got from one of my transplant coordinators, VAD coordinators. And they had just had over at UAB Hospital a celebration with cake and ice cream, the whole party down thing. They just had a whole celebration celebrating those who have had an LVAD for 5 or more years. So one LVAD for 5 or more years. And so definitely there are people who are keeping the LVADs longer than that. I know a lot of people personally who've had them 3, 4 years without issue, and a few others that have had a few issues but still maintain one for that period of time or longer. So I think as time goes on, as technology improves, it'll be potentially more likely to have an LVAD for a long period of time, 5+ years or more. So these statistics here, 6 months to a year, that's very, very low. And thankfully, most of that is in the past. Not to say that it's not still a tough road to hoe. Not to say there's still not some difficulties, but things are a lot better right now than they have ever been before, as far as survival rates and that sort of thing. So some people get LVADs for bridge to transplant. Others, it's kind of an end of life thing, but that doesn't mean that life ends that quickly. It could be years and years, and they expect these things to go on a long time as technology advances. But anyway, great question. Next question, we've got Cody James Watson asked this question. He says, I know CHF can make you feel full or bloated. Does anyone have problems when they eat only meat? I feel fine when eating veggies, fruit, and just about anything, but I feel full the second I start eating red meat, chicken, pork. Just doesn't matter. I'm full as soon as I take a bite. Well, Cody, I don't actually have an answer for that per se, other than the fact that obviously, if you're in CHF, you may have some fluid issues. Most of us would, and fluid retention issues. So it may not be the meat itself. It may be the seasoning, the salts, the whatever spices are put on the meat that causes that to happen. But the real case comes down here is that your body, when you're in congestive heart failure, and I've been there, done that, got the badge, the whole 9 yards. When you're in congestive heart failure, your body is very limited on energy supply, is the way I describe it. Very limited on being able to keep going and going, stamina type things. And so when you're eating, and it doesn't really matter the food, if you eat large quantities or meat, for example, it could be large quantities of vegetables or meat. When you eat those types of food, or any type of food for that matter, it's going to take a toll. Food is hard to digest. I didn't realize it then how important it was, but it takes a lot of energy to digest food. The digestive system is one of the largest organs in your body overall, going from here to there, and takes up a lot. All the small intestines, large intestines, the bowels, the whole thing that goes with that. And every one of those major organs, which is what they are, they have to work extremely hard to digest that food. Now, a few things come into that. If you're overloaded with fluid, obviously, then there's a lot that's going on as far as that system doesn't have the room to work. It doesn't have the capacity to work. Things like your liver, particularly, and your kidneys that are actually involved in that as well. Then they're not able to expel the liquids and the waters and to purify whatever's coming through. At the same time, again, your body is just working very, very hard to do that. I can remember back pre-transplant, and I've told about this before, a lot of times I refused to eat breakfast or lunch. Here's the reason why. I would get up out of bed every morning. Once I get up, I would take a shower. After taking a shower, I'd basically be so worn out, I'd have to go lay down for a few minutes, usually take a 20, 30, 45-minute nap. After I got back up from that, in general, I felt pretty well if I didn't eat. So a lot of times if I felt decent, like I was going to be able to accomplish something during that day, I would oftentimes not eat, because once I ate, down for the count I go. It's like Mike Tyson, gave me that uppercut to the cheek or whatever. It would take me down, because that processing, the digestion of that food was so labor intensive, so difficult, until I just couldn't make it. So I would put off eating for most of the day, and just to save that. And then along about maybe 2, 3 o'clock, when it felt like I was, pass out from hunger, my blood sugars were low, then I would go ahead and eat, of course, then have to crash after that. So what my team suggested for me, and it actually worked, was to just be sure to eat very small portions throughout the day. So I might eat meals, say at breakfast, lunch, and supper, but I would make those smaller, and then in between, I would eat healthy foods in between. And I mean by that, not a bag of nacho chips like I wanted, but I would eat, fruits and nuts, basically, was about it. Eat fruits and nuts in between, and then even then just nibble on that. Just throughout the day, I loved almonds. I'd have me a little bowl of almonds. I'd just nibble on those. Same thing with, a piece of fruit. I might cut up an apple, eat a few slices here and there. that sort of thing, and just snack throughout the day. And I found out that helped me a lot as far as the bloated feeling, and especially as far as the feeling zonked every time I ate a meal. So yeah, any meat is harder to digest, harder to process than the vegetables. So that's probably where you're feeling that difference as far as the overall part of it. As far as the taking a bite, I'm not sure exactly why that would be the way it is. But, anyway, praying for you, Cody. Hope things go well. But overall, just eat small portions throughout the day. Try that out, see if it works for you. So that's all the time we have for questions today. This video's gone 20-something minutes, 25 minutes. Ooh. Didn't realize that, but I appreciate you joining me today. Don't forget about the Getting Started series. Don't forget, as always, if you found any benefit at all from this video, give it a big thumbs up. YouTube likes that, and they'll show this video to more people, hopefully, through doing that. Also, consider subscribing today. Hit the big subscribe button, the bell notification up beneath this video. Even at the end screen here, when it pops up, you'll see some video choices. You'll see a circle somewhere. That circle is the subscribe button, so go ahead and hit that. And until next time, stay stronger, friends.